All right, let's build a shower. And today is part 1 of waterproofing this puppy. Because I'm going with the cement board and roll-on liquid membrane as my waterproofing system, my first step is going to be mixing up some thinset and then using a cement board mesh tape to tape and mud all the seams and corners of my walls, because this product alone is not thick enough or meant to fill these large voids. Now, when it comes to picking thinsets, there's a ton of options to choose from. The important thing is that you do your research and make sure that the manufacturer of whatever product you plan on using says it's okay to use over whatever substrate that you have installed, which in my case is cement board, and Mapei says they're cool with that. Now, every product has a slight variation in their mixing process, so make sure that you read the instructions on the bag carefully and follow them to the best of your ability. Now, with that being said, I don't want to mix up that entire bag right now, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of guesswork to get the right consistency. So here's what I like to do. I'm first going to start out with 2 SpongeBob fulls of water at the bottom of my mixing bucket. Then, before I pour my thinset into my bucket and mix it for 3 minutes, I'm going to put on my respirator and run my vacuum while I pour it to suck up all the dust. So hopefully I don't breathe any of this stuff in. All right, so then I like to use a mixing drill. You don't want to use a normal drill, otherwise you're going to burn it up. And we're going to mix for 3 minutes. Now, if it gets real clumpy like that, it just needs more water. So we're going to add another SpongeBob. Now that my thinset is mixed to a consistency I like, I'm now going to introduce you to a process called slaking. What slaking is essentially just letting the thinset sit undisturbed for 5 minutes, which allows all the ingredients and chemicals in the thinset to just chemically bond to one another. So the manufacturers stress not to skip this step. So I'm going to wait 5 minutes, mix it up again for 1 minute, and then we're going to go. All right, it's been 5 minutes. So now I'm gonna mix it up again for 1 minute. One thing I should mention, once you mix this for the second time, if this starts to set up in the bucket and get kind of difficult to work with, you cannot add more water to it and mix it up to make it easier to work with. Once this is mixed, it's mixed. And if it starts going bad, it's just time to toss it. Now, if you're familiar with the process of taping and mudding drywall, this is basically the exact same concept. So first, I'm gonna take my thinset and pre-fill all the gaps in my seams and corners, as well as making sure to cover and smooth out all my screws. Then I'm gonna add a layer of my mesh tape over all my seams and corners, and then finish it off with another layer of thinset over my tape to smooth everything out. You'll notice I get a little bit of thinset on my blade, and then I press it into the tape, and then I pull it back flat. Now, if you watched last episode, you may have noticed I didn't cover adding cement board around the niche. I did that because directly on the other side of this wall is a finished space. So there was nowhere I could realistically add blocking for my screws to screw into. Because unfortunately, screws cannot grip into drywall alone because they'll just pull right out. So now that I have thinset mixed up for this step, I can now smear thinset along the back of this drywall and then press my cement board into that to make it stick. Wiping this down doesn't just clean up the dust, it introduces water to the super dry drywall so that when I add my thinset, it doesn't suck the moisture out of the thinset and make it dry too fast on me. I'm first gonna burn the thinset into the drywall by using my flat side of the trowel and pressing the thinset into the drywall to get a nice thin layer. Then I'm gonna add more thinset and use the notch side of this 1/4 inch by 3/8 inch notch trowel. And I'm gonna trowel it in one direction on the back side of this niche, and then I'll be able to press my cement board into that. I'm also gonna back butter the back piece of this cement board. All right, now that everything is taped and mostly smoothed out, I now want to add a slight slope to the bottom shelf of my niche. That way, any water that lands on here will be able to roll off and find its way down to the drain. So the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna set my laser at the very back corner of the bottom shelf of my niche. Then I'm gonna mark the very top of my laser line. That way, while I'm working, if I end up blocking my laser, I'll still be able to see my pencil line. Then I'm gonna slap some thinset up here and then use my knife and keep this back corner along the top of my laser line, as well as keeping this edge flush and tight with this front corner. And then I'm gonna screed that thinset off to make a slope for my shelf. Then I'm gonna take my torpedo level to check for a slight slope, which we got our bubble right there, so I like it. Now I need to let this thinset dry, and then I can apply my waterproofing membrane. So make sure to stay tuned for parts 2 and 3, where I'm gonna show you how I install my shower pan and then waterproof these walls.